Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Ether Show. I know I said I was going to talk about controlling anger for the next episode, and I still do plan on talking about dealing with anger because obviously it's something that I constantly deal with. And in the podcast, I do like to be current with my like circumstances and things like that because it's easier to talk about, right? Like for me to look back into the past and think about something, sometimes it's a little hard to talk about. But today, I decided instead of talking about anger, I wanted to talk about um, comfortability. And I'm gonna start off with just like a little small story about yesterday. So yesterday I had my baby shower. I'm having a little baby girl. Super happy about it. Um, and to celebrate afterwards, I went to the bar with two of my friends, and um, and when I went over there, we just started talking about like a bunch of different stuff, and uh, and then I think being comfortable came up. Somehow I forgot exactly because I was buzzing pretty hard, right? And it was funny because he was like, "Yeah, bro, like I think you're very comfortable too, you know." And it's weird because I never really thought of myself that way because of like the things that I constantly do every day. So I became defensive. And I was like, nah, what the hell do you mean, bro? Like, I'm practicing all this stuff all the time and this, and that. He's like, yeah, bro, but like, you're still comfortable. Like, you repeatedly do the same things and this, and that. And it was funny because I was still being defensive, but it wasn't until like later on while I was driving home that I really thought about it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I became defensive for a reason, right? I was like, maybe I really, like, I did step out of my comfort zone to like get to this level of understanding about myself and being open minded about like the different possibilities and learning different things. But that doesn't mean that I'm still not comfortable now. And it took me a little bit to get that, right? I was like, damn. I was like, I was like, maybe I really am just comfortable now, although I did these things and although I do daily things. That doesn't mean that I'm still constantly pushing out of my comfort zone. I don't think today's message is going to be very long, but I think it's an important message, and it's just to go ahead and get out of your comfort zone. Like no matter what you're progressing in, no matter what you're doing, we all get comfortable. Like you may have achieved that one thing, but what are you doing after that? And I'm not gonna say, and this doesn't apply to everyone. It really just depends about who you are, what you believe in, how you want your life to look. Because for some people, comfortability isn't a bad thing. I don't ever think it is, and I think it's just important to recognize when you are. I think it's important to recognize when you are comfortable because I mean, shit, it took somebody else telling me to realize that like, yeah, I do the same shit every day. Like although I may be doing mindfulness and stuff like that, like I'm not constantly pushing out of my comfort zone to be better, to do better. Um, Even in like, and it doesn't have to be like in an extreme way. Um, and that was just on my mind today, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna open up this laptop and start speaking about this real quick because I just think it's such an important topic. For those of you guys that do you want something different. Like maybe you think about it quite often, but you aren't doing the things to get there. But the fact that you still practice mindfulness, maybe for some of you, you think that you're, how do I say, good, and like for those of you that maybe don't want to be doing the same things every day, or maybe after you got to like a certain level where you're like, okay, cool, like I understand myself pretty well, I feel like I'm relatively happy for the most part, right? And then you just constantly do that, but still you're wanting something different, then it's important to catch yourself, right? So like for myself, I consider myself to be more of like an adventurer, right, and shit like that. I don't really go out as much as I used to because fuck summer, to be honest. um and But like the funny thing is though is that like that's so me, right? Like I fucking absolutely love adventuring. I love going out. I love uh like going into the forest or some shit like that, right? Like those things are what make me happy. Yet I'm never like trying to reach new levels of it or like seeing how far I can expand on it. I'm just like, okay, well, I'm gonna go do the hike I've always done, and once I get done, I'm gonna go home and then eat and I'm good. Like that's so. It's funny because you don't notice it, right? Like I'm so glad that my friend told me about it, or like that just came up in conversation because now I feel like I'm able to really like look at myself differently and finally start adjusting my life to my goals. And maybe I get it this time, or maybe I don't. I'm not necessarily in a rush anymore. I feel like when I was younger, that was the biggest thing. Like I was just constantly in this rush. I was like, damn, dude, like I have to fucking get it like right now, and it just doesn't work that way. Like when I think back on it, man, I can't think of a single plan that went exactly to the T. Can't think of one. And yet we plan everything like we can. You know, and I don't know if that's like the comfortability in us, right? Like if the way I see it is like maybe they correlate because of how our days go, how we regularly plan them, and when it goes uninterrupted. For the most part, I feel like because of that, routine, whether it just be a morning routine or a daily routine, right? Um, we get so disappointed because we have all these expectations of, like, how something is supposed to be, or the plan that we set in place. And then when it doesn't go that way, we're like, fuck me, like this sucks. I hate myself, blah blah, right? All that stuff. So, I think I pretty much just yammered on right now. My bad, guys. We're all talking about comfortability, and I got into something completely different. But yeah, man, like, just recognize if you're comfortable right now, and ask yourself where you want to be at, and if you want to be comfortable, like you're in a good spot right now, and you're like, you know what, man, I don't need anything else. I'm good. Like that's fine too. Having a life that's contextual to yours is so important, man. I can't even stress how important it is, just because of the simple fact that personally it felt like my life was just so much in service of others. I'm not too sure if I've mentioned this before. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Besides editing, I don't look at my podcast episode again, so if I may repeat myself, I'm sorry. I just don't like to get caught up in the views and stuff like that, because I feel like before, when I first started, I was just like constantly looking at like how many views I was getting or whatever the hell, so I just kind of like drop it once it's edited, and I'm like, all right, cool, man, I'm not going to look at it again. But again, like I feel like my life was really in service of others, when I really look back on it, because pretty much just like a quick little overview, like, with my mom, obviously everyone, every kid, right? Like you have to listen to your parents and shit like that. That's just, a given. So like, but obviously like life was a little bit harder when we were younger. It was different. And obviously I'm not going to get into like great detail, whatever. My mom's a great person, but just at the time, like we just weren't seeing eye to eye. and then once I started like getting into like high school and stuff like that, I joined JRTC, which is like this little high school military program. And I was also in CHP as an explorer, which is like the state police here for California. And an explorer is just like an intern. But after that, I joined the military, and I was in JRTC for the full 4 years. Sorry, 3 actually. I think I was only there for 3. I missed a year of school over there. Went to a different one. And I was constantly in CHP for the 4 years, so I was constantly busy. And then I joined the military, and I was there for about 2 years. And I was like it was just like my life was just constantly taking orders, So like now that I'm free, it feels so much better, man. Like it feels amazing. Like, so make sure that like you make this life as much about you as you can. And that doesn't mean that you're selfish, Like I think I've been told that quite a few times, and maybe to some degree I might be, maybe that's just kind of a part of this. But I mean, fuck, man, after everything that's happened, after me just standing idly by wanting things and not doing anything to get it and just putting everyone else before me, I realized that in some sense, in some ways, you have to be selfish, because no one's going to put you ahead of for you, Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but no one's going to make you a priority in your own life besides you. And you have to, man. Because I know most of you guys probably listening to this are listening for a reason, right? And maybe you've been there where like you feel like a passenger in your own life, like you feel like you're not even in the fucking driver's seat going where you want to go. And that feels for me like a cage. It feels like I'm just caged, like I have no say, or I have no, like input. I don't have even the fucking directions of where I'm going. Like it's just constantly me just being surprised about where the hell I'm going and not wanting to be there. So yeah, man, like check yourself. If you're really wanting to excel in certain things, then just see if you're comfortable, like see how you feel about trying new things, and also on top of that, if you are comfortable and you find out that you are and you're perfectly fine with it, then that's okay too. It's your life, man. You live it the way you fucking want to, and no one else gets a say in that, and that's not a wrong thing. Thank you guys so much for coming to this podcast. Coming to this episode. Now I'm going to leave you guys with a quote that I want you guys to sit on for a bit. Our little food for thought at the end of every episode, right? I'm gonna try my best to remember to do them all the time. Uh, but the quote is: "In the rush to return to normal, use this time to consider which parts of normal are you rushing back to." That's by Dave Hollis. Thank you guys so much for checking out this episode, and I'll catch you guys next week.